Good morning. It's Sunday, October 31st. In this country, the United States of America, we have rights. And these rights lead to movements. We have social movements, we have other movements, we have civil rights movements, environmental movements, green movements, yellow movements, labor movements, anti-globalization movements, vegetarian movements, feminist movements, Stop the Steal, BLM. We have all those movements going. And there's a new movement afoot. It's called Stop the Chop. This is a movement because helicopter traffic in and around the city between New York and New Jersey and Long Island is causing too much noise for the populations that live in those areas. There's a movement afoot to close down the East Hampton Airport, which is the home of the helicopter movement on Long Island, because many, many wealthy people from New York just go down to the 30th Street heliport and hop a helicopter to come out to the Long Island shore for a weekend. And then there's people from New York and travel to New Jersey by helicopter. The helicopter noise is driving people nuts, supposedly. Now, I live on Long Island. I don't hear much of that helicopter noise. And I've been to most of the airports on Long Island. And they're fairly busy places, but they're not very noisy. But I guess if you have helicopters flying over your head, it will be noisy. And here's what some people have said about the noise. Complaints have skyrocketed, and these complaints are coming into the 311 extension on your phone. And they're talking about noise. And the guy from the Botanical Garden said, the awful helicopter nonstop loops over the Brooklyn Botanical Garden and Prospect Park abuses Brooklyn and New York City residents all the time with nonstop aerial bombardments. Sounds like he's living someplace during World War II when they had cities that were being bombed. Now he believes that the Botanical Garden is a place of refuge, a place to take your mind off things, to study the beauty, and the loud noises of the helicopters are interrupting that study, interrupting the peace and tranquility of the gardens. And he is probably 100% right about that. But that's been a problem for a long time, I think. I think plain noises, if you live near airports or stuff like that, you will hear them. But I guess helicopters are closer to the earth, and they make a lot more noise. So there's movement afoot called Stop the Chop. And it's got groups, sections. There's Stop the Chop New York, New Jersey. There's Stop the Chop Long Island. Apparently there are many individual areas that have formed a Stop the Chop group. Now this is not a minor problem, because according to the New York Times, the city received 18,000 calls from January through September, more than triple the number of calls during the same period last year. So I don't know why they're getting so many calls this year as opposed to last year. But maybe this year more people are home. More people are listening to the noise because they're not in their office working. They're home. And so maybe that's why there's triple the amount of calls. But 18,000 calls about helicopter noise or air noise or who knows what other kinds of noise are in this equation here. That's a lot of calls. Now they want to close these helicopter ports down, the heliports. And there are 3 heliports that they're worried about. And then one in New York and wherever they are, I don't know. And East Hampton. But they are on public land. These heliports are on public land. And so they can be closed down in the best interest of the public. But then there's a huge group that use these things. They use it for business and they use it for pleasure. And you know, the people who use the heliport are probably not poor. So they probably have influence. So I don't know if you'll get the heliport's closed down. And the people in New York City are complaining about the commercial helicopter traffic because it has changed the pattern of their life. The rhythm of the city has been interrupted by the noise of the helicopter. Now, I don't know. I think that has to be a group of very, very sensitive people, because I lived in the city. But maybe I was just too young to pay attention to what was going on. But I could hear, you could hear the noise of it, planes and things like that. But I don't know that destroyed the rhythm of the city. So maybe there's a general overreaction, and maybe it's a form of jealousy because not everybody can hop on a helicopter and ride out to some place for relaxing over a weekend or something like that. So I'm not sure what the full effect of Chop the Shop is, or whether it really is a movement for the people or if it's just a movement for some groups of people. And in my mind, I am 100% certain that the pandemic had something to do with the increase in this Stop the Chop movement. Because, as I said before, people are home. They're not interacting with other people. They're home and alone, and they probably have become more sensitive to their surroundings. Since if you're not socializing, if you're not in a social group, then little things will come to your attention and you will notice them. So if you're sitting alone at home trying to do some work and you hear the helicopter, it affects you. Whereas if you were in an office space and people are moving, you wouldn't hear that helicopter. So the pandemic, we can blame the pandemic for the rise in the Stop the Chop movement. How's that? Let's blame it all on the pandemic. We're blaming everything else in the world on the pandemic right now. We might as well blame helicopter noise on it too. So there you have it. We're blaming the whole thing on the pandemic because there really isn't that much helicopter noise. It's just that a bunch of people are cooped up in their house for too long, and now they have to deal with the noise or not deal with the noise. So maybe it's a bad idea to work from home alone. Maybe you should think about getting back to the offices. Think about meeting with your office compatriots in the same place, in a local cafe or something, and do your work there. So you won't be traveling to the city, and you won't be traveling, but you won't be alone listening to the hell. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the morning. Bye.